friends, Kim from Stamping Imperfection. I am making a video for Scrappy Tales Crafts here. I'm part of their video design team, and I am playing with the Layering Christmas Trees stamp set. And I have seen some beautiful cards made with this. I'm going to keep my cards really simple today. I want to do all the stamping on just one layer. I don't want to fussy cut anything out. They do have coordinating dies for these, but I did not get them. So I would have to fussy cut this out if I wanted to. Now, this is a layering stamp set. There are actually 4 layers to the tree and decorations. 2 are actually the tree itself, and then 2 layers are the decorations. So I did condition my stamp with my Pentel eraser. I just erase across the top to try to remove the manufacturing residue, but I do have a bit of trouble. The stamp is really kind of stubborn as far as getting that residue off there. So I think I would recommend actually stamping it in Versamark first on scrap paper a couple of times and then using your colorful inks. Now I'm using Altenew inks today because I love that Altenew sells their inks in sets of 3 or 4 colors that layer together beautifully. So I've chosen 2 colors to start with here. The color I'm using for this layer is called Shadow Creek. And the color, like, it's just the set of 4 beautiful greens that Altenew has, and they just layer so beautifully together. I like not having to think about what colors I should be layering together. So I stamped that like 4 times there to get a good coverage. I'm going to pull out, now that was the layer, the base layer is the one that's got the most filled in layer, and it's going to require the most ink. The second layer is the detail layer, and here I am conditioning this again because I have not used this stamp set before. And I'm using Mountain Pine. This is my very favorite green of that Altenew has. Altenew has like 150 colors, or almost 150 colors, something like that. So I'm adding to my collection with mini ink cubes because it would be very pricey to collect all of those large ink pads. Hundreds of dollars, actually. So I've got the detail. I love the detail. So now I'm putting down the first ornament layer, and again, this is the one with the most surface area that needs to be stamped. And I'm lining up the white bits here. Like, lining up the ornaments is much easier than lining up the detail parts. So I'm pulling out some new reds that I just got, and this is burnt red, and I really love the way this comes out. It has a very vintage Christmas feel to it because it's an orangey red. It looks like a card I pulled out of a trunk from my grandmother's attic. I love the way this looks. It's very old-fashioned, the color combination. Now right away you can see that one of the ornaments is not lining up. And when I looked on Scrappy Tales website, Sabrina has discounted this stamp set because the stamp set is defective. That one ornament doesn't line up. So I'm going to show you in a minute how I fixed that. I thought at this point I didn't realize that. I thought, oh, I must have not lined it up correctly. So I'm going to try with the outline and see how it goes. But when I was lining it up, I realized that detail one didn't line up either. So I wiped the ink off, and I'm using this ink called Mahogany Bark that's in the set with the burnt red. It's the darker. The second time I inked it up, I forgot to wipe it off. And when I look at it, I can see that solid red ornament is a little to the right. The detail ornament is a little to the left. Neither one of them lined up with the opening where the ornament should go. So Sabrina suggested stretching the stamp as you place it on your Misty or your clear block, but instead I'm going to make a permanent fix here. I'm just going to cut that ornament right out. Now I'm being careful not to damage the ornament because I still want to stamp that ornament in there. So I'm cutting the acrylic around the ornament, and I'm not doing a particularly tidy job of it because that part of the acrylic is not going to affect how this stamps. So I'm going to start over, and you're going to see how I go about. I just have two smaller stamps that when I get all my layers done, then I'll stamp that ornament and its details in place with a clear block. So you'll see me do that. So once again, I'm taking the base layer of the tree, which has a lot of area that needs to be inked up. And you always use the lightest color with the base. You put the darker colors as your detail colors, and the lightest one is your base. Otherwise, the lighter ones aren't going to show up on top of a darker one. So again, I still stamp that a couple times there, and I'm going to pull out the detail, and I'm going to stamp the detail one again. So this time I used grass fields. You can see it's a more yellow green for that base, and I'm much happier with the contrast I get here. I'm still using my mountain pine because I love the mountain pine, and I still stamp it twice because I really want it to show up. It didn't need to be stamped again, but I just really want it to be nice and dark. So doesn't that look great? Like, I love the details that gives. So I like Sabrina's layering stamps a lot. They're actually really easy to line up, especially once I removed that offending ornament. But this was an easy fix, and you get a discount on the stamp because it is defective. And it does have a coordinating die set, so that's a nice thing if you want to get the coordinating die set. It does look pretty to die cut the tree out and make a beautiful background. It looks really pretty to do that. I was trying to just keep my cards simple though. So now I'm putting the second layer on top, and this time instead of using the darker red, I decided I wanted to use white ink. So I used Hero Arts Hero Hues Unicorn ink. It's a pigment ink instead of a dye ink, and here you can see that I'm using that little stamp I cut out. So I did the solid one in the burnt red. Now I'm using the detail stamp in the white, and I love the way that white ink looks on top of that red. Like, I think that's really pretty. So I'm really happy, and it was so much easier to just cut out those two little ornament bits, and now I'll just put them next to the tree, the stamps that I pulled them that I cut them out of on the packaging when I store it, and I'll then be able to remember that those didn't line up, and that's why I did that. I would definitely not remember that I need to stretch that stamp. So it was just easier to cut them out and have two little stamps that need to be stamped in place. Now for the star, I used buttercream and warm sunshine inks. So two different yellows. One was a very pale yellow, and this one is a nice dark yellow. And that little star is so pretty. It was really easy to line up too. Isn't that pretty? Like, I love the white detail on there. I think that looks very vintage. And I went ahead and I stamped the sentiment that's from our home to yours in my Eclipse Black ink from Maker Forte. I do love Altenews black inks as well. They have 3 different black inks. All of them are fabulous. This just happened to be the one I had sitting in front of me. And I love this ink as well. And I love Catherine Pooler's Midnight Black ink as well. So I did this in some different colors. So for this one, I used Icy Water and Arctic Mountain Blue inks. And Pink Diamond, there's a little pink watercolor wash around that tree. For the second one, I used Pinkalicious and Midnight Violet with some iceberg blue ink around the tree, and I used Delicata Silver Shimmer ink for the detail ornament and ribbon layer for the 2 trees there. You can see I put a dark gray mat behind them that's cut at 4 1/8 by 5 3/8, and the card base is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. Actually, it's 5 1/2 by 8 1/2, and I scored and folded it 4 1/4. And you can see the silver, the shiny silver there. I added some iridescent white sequins to each of the cards. The second sentiment that I've used there is home for the holidays, and I just really like those. They were very simple, and you know, these would be easy to do in bulk. So thank you so much for watching, friends. I'm going to put all the links for these products below. I would love it if you give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Make sure you click that bell to get notifications every time I upload a new video. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful day.